You know that scene in the movie Waiting to Exhale where Angela Bassett's character Bernadine fills her husband's BMW with his designer clothes and shoes, backs that car out of the garage, pours gasoline on it, then lights a cigarette and tosses the match so the clothes catch fire? It feels very real, and I would say there is a high number of people who have had this idea when their spouse came out to them as transgender. Now, of course, this thought of revenge and anger should never become a reality, right? It needs to stay at the movies, and you need to be able to move beyond this level of anger. But let me tell you, after 2 years of my spouse being out as transgender and 2 years of being in all kinds of support groups, there are a lot of spouses who still struggle with their anger and who want everyone to know how awful all of this is and that their transgender spouse destroyed their life and continues to do so. I understand that initial feeling, but if it has been 2 years or more and you're stuck in a pattern of telling everyone around you that your life has been ruined, doesn't it feel like it's time to get out of that pattern and move on? Welcome to Straight Wife Trans Life. I'm Lisa, and I am getting over a cold, but let's tackle this idea of getting out of an anger pattern. I don't remember if I mentioned this or not, but let me paint a picture for you about anger and emotions within a family dynamic. My dad practiced family law before I was born and found that dealing with people trying to destroy each other was so awful, he decided to shift his focus and practice law as a criminal defense attorney. Let that sink in for a minute. An attorney left family law for criminal law because it was more sane. So yeah, when your spouse comes out as transgender and you are angry and turn to your groups to tell them how awful your spouse is over and over again, even to newcomers who might just be asking if anyone stays together, well, your group is going to tell you that your feelings are valid. And they are. Your feelings are valid. But nobody ever says, your feelings are valid and I hear you, and how are you working toward moving forward? Nobody says, what steps are you taking to move past the anger? Or are you stuck feeling angry? Here's what's helped me. I don't see that enough where we offer solutions to one another, and when I have seen it, and even when I have offered it myself, it isn't well received. Sometimes people just want to live in their anger. And I do understand that, but I also think that moving forward is healthy. At some point, once we've had a chance to sit in it and process all of these feelings that we're going through, it's time to move forward. So I'm going to offer some ideas for getting out of a pattern of anger. And I am not a professional. I am a spouse who has been going through this for 2 years. And it just breaks my heart to see other spouses who are going through this, but who feel very stuck, who are just stuck in this mindset of anger. And so I hope that I can kind of offer some ideas to help get people out of that. First, and nobody wants to hear this, but recognize that you may have a victim mentality. I see this phrase all the time. What did I do to deserve this? Listen, you didn't do anything, and it's not your fault. Yes, your feelings are valid, but if you feel like there's no way out, others are always pushing you down, and now, of course, your spouse is destroying your life, a victim mentality might make it feel easier to lean into the misery than to take action to make positive changes that could actually lead to a happier future. I'm going to include a link to the definition, causes, and ways to cope with a victim mentality so you can see if that fits you. Please take a look. I think that it could be a huge step forward for a spouse to recognize themselves on that list. And I know it's hard to look in the mirror, but I really think it's a big, big step. Next, maybe you have tried to solve all of this on your own. You say, I don't need therapy, or I tried it and I hated it. Try again. I used to think that there was something wrong with people who needed therapy, and now I very much feel that everyone should have access to therapists and counselors. A therapist or a life coach who has experience with the LGBTQ+ community can make a huge difference in getting out of the anger cycle. When my spouse came out, we found a therapist to talk to together, and we each found one for ourselves. And for a year, I worked with both, and both of them helped to move forward as a team with my spouse and as an individual. So please do give it a try and do use your insurance for therapy. It's not cheap, and if your insurance doesn't cover therapy, ask the therapist if they have a sliding scale. Third, and I know that you don't want to hear this, but have you considered your spouse or partner's point of view? It is easy to be angry and shut people out who have done you wrong, but do you know exactly why you're angry? Hear your partner out. If they're jerks, that's a different scenario. But if you've had a solid relationship and this transition has taken you by surprise, talk about it. Yes, it will be painful because no part of transition makes sense to us in the beginning. But I really encourage you to take it slow and figure out solutions that could work for your family. Evaluate how you can make it work under the same roof or apart. You can remain civil with each other once you understand that what is happening to your spouse is separate from what is happening to you as a couple. Fourth, so this is a quote that we see every few months. I know that all of us have seen this. You can't control what happens to you, but you can control how you react. What happened is your spouse came out to you as transgender, and that's done. You can't change it, fix it, or hide it. It's done. So now what? Do you want to be angry and bitter forever? Or do you want to say, hey, I had a great marriage, and nope, it will never be the same, and here's how I'm going to handle it by doing X, Y, and Z. To figure out how you're going to handle it, you're going to have to ask yourself some tough questions. What do I want now that my spouse has come out? How will this situation feel for me if I stay? Do I need to leave, or can we manage under the same roof? Take your time to react. Allow yourself time to process things. Think through various scenarios and come to a conclusion of what you need, and then if possible, talk to your spouse and see if you two can come up with a solution together. It took me a year to process things, and I'm still processing, but I decided early on that my spouse hadn't done anything intentional to hurt me, and that she is a great person, and I would be okay staying under the same roof. Fifth, as RuPaul says, if you don't love yourself, how the hell are you going to love somebody else? When you're angry, you're not showing yourself any love. What would you say to someone in your shoes to feel better? Start there. You might say something like, I'm here for you. I have your back, friend. I say, take yourself to lunch or dinner. I've taken myself out, and it might feel weird at first, but treat yourself. Splurge on dessert. I once sat next to a woman at a restaurant bar who had an adult coloring book and said she lived down the street but was upset at her husband, and walking over with her coloring book and buying a drink gave her some time to think and take a deep breath and just relax. How brilliant is that? So bring a coloring book or an actual book, or better yet, start writing in a little journal. Jot a few things down every day about how you're feeling and see if you recognize a pattern. If you see, this mother effer is now spending all her time on hair removal, or this mother effer is leaving the house with too much makeup, recognize that all of your energy is being spent on someone else and not you. So, what brings you joy? If you could start fresh, what would you do? What are your favorite hobbies? What haven't you tried doing that you would like to try? What is one realistic item on your bucket list that you could check off this year? What is one goal that you would love to achieve? What is one step you could take toward achieving that goal? Here's the bottom line. You could not have predicted that your spouse would come out as transgender, but your life is not ruined. Until next time, don't waste too much energy on anger. It is time to start a new chapter and turn those lemons into lemonade, or a lemon souffle, or lemon bars, or a lemon mousse, a lemon tart, maybe a lemon cake, lemon cookie.